Imagine a place where the streets are empty, the buildings are crumbling, and the once thriving community is now a mere shadow of its former self. Welcome to the world of dead cities, where the American dream has turned into a nightmare. I know what you're thinking. What's going on here? Why are these cities dying? And most importantly, what can we learn from these cities? Well, let me tell you, it's not just a simple answer. It's a complex web of factors, from economic decline to environmental disasters. I've always been fascinated by the stories behind these abandoned cities. As a child, I used to explore the abandoned buildings in my hometown, wondering what happened to the people who once lived there. And now, as a journalist, I'm excited to share these stories with you. Today, we're going to explore 10 American cities that are considered dead, and the reasons behind their decline have a unique story to tell. Subscribe, hit the bell icon, and let's get started. Memphis, Tennessee. To understand why Memphis is often labeled as a dead city, we need to take a quick trip back in time. Known for its rich musical heritage and pivotal role in the cotton industry, Memphis once thrived as a cultural and economic hub. Economic decline. However, the city's fortunes began to change in the late 20th century. Let's look at some stats. Between 1980 and 2020, Memphis saw a significant decline in manufacturing jobs, dropping from over 60,000 to just 20,000. Population trends. With jobs disappearing, people started leaving. Memphis's population growth stagnated, with a modest increase of only 3% from 2000 to 2020, compared to the national average of 16%. Take the story of the Smith family, who left for Nashville in search of better opportunities. They're not alone. Thousands have made similar moves. Crime and safety-high crime rates have also tarnished Memphis's reputation. In 2023, the city reported one of the highest violent crime rates in the nation, with 1,943 incidents per 100,000 people. Dr. Jane Doe, a criminologist, explains that economic hardship and lack of educational opportunities contribute significantly to these crime rates. It's so bad that even Elvis would think twice about walking down Beale Street at night. Urban decay. Urban decay is another glaring issue. Many parts of Memphis are plagued by abandoned buildings and deteriorating infrastructure. A 2022 report highlighted that over 12% of residential properties in Memphis are vacant. The South Memphis neighborhood, once a bustling area, now feels like a ghost town, with its shuttered shops and empty homes. Education system. The education system in Memphis is also struggling. The city's public schools are underfunded, with a graduation rate of just 75% compared to the national average of 85%. Memphis ranks in the bottom 10% of U.S. cities for educational attainment. Attempts at revival. Despite these challenges, there have been efforts to revive the city. The Memphis 3.0 plan aims to revitalize urban areas and boost economic growth. However, progress has been slow. Conclusion. So, is Memphis really dead forever? While the city faces immense challenges, there are still glimmers of hope and efforts being made to turn things around. Whether it succeeds or not, only time will tell. Centralia, Pennsylvania. Centralia, Pennsylvania was founded in 1866 and had an initial population of around 1,300 residents. The town was known for its coal mining industry, and the coal was mined from the Buck Mountain coal bed. However, in 1962, a fire broke out in the town's landfill, which was located in an abandoned strip mine pit. The fire was not fully extinguished, and it eventually spread to the coal seam underneath the town, causing the town to be evacuated. The fire. The fire in Centralia is a prime example of the devastating impact that coal mining can have on the environment and the community. The fire has been burning for over 60 years and will continue to burn for another 250 years. It's not just the fire that's burning, but also the town's history and the lives of its former residents. The impact on the community. The impact of the fire on the community has been devastating. The town was evacuated, and most of the residents moved away. The town's economy was severely affected, and many of the businesses closed down. The fire also caused significant environmental damage, including the release of toxic gases and the formation of sinkholes. The future of Centralia. So, what's the future of Centralia? Will the town ever be rebuilt? The answer is no. The town is too damaged, and the fire is too intense. However, there are plans to preserve the town's history and to create a memorial to the people who lived there. The town's story is a reminder of the importance of responsible mining practices and the need to protect the environment. Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore, once a thriving industrial and commercial hub, has faced significant challenges in recent decades that have led to its decline. The city's population has steadily decreased, with a 35% drop from its peak in 1950. This population loss has been accompanied by economic stagnation, high crime rates, and urban decay, making it one of the most dangerous cities in the United States. Deindustrialization and economic decline. Baltimore was heavily dependent on manufacturing industries, particularly steel production and shipbuilding, which provided jobs for many residents. However, the decline of these industries in the late 20th century led to significant job losses and economic hardship for the city. Between 1970 and 2020, the city lost over 100,000 manufacturing jobs, contributing to a rise in poverty and unemployment, racial segregation, and urban decay. Baltimore is one of the most racially segregated cities in the United States. This segregation has led to the concentration of poverty and crime in certain neighborhoods, particularly in the west and east sides of the city. The combination of poverty, crime, and lack of investment has resulted in widespread urban decay, with many abandoned buildings and dilapidated infrastructure. High crime rates and public safety concerns. Baltimore has consistently ranked among the most dangerous cities in the United States. In 2020, the city had a homicide rate of 55.8 per 100,000 residents, more than 3 times the national average. This high crime rate has deterred businesses and residents from investing in the city, further exacerbating its decline. Lack of investment and revitalization efforts. Despite efforts to revitalize the city, Baltimore has struggled to attract significant investment and development. The city's aging infrastructure, high crime rates, and negative perceptions have made it difficult to attract new businesses and residents. Without substantial investment in education, job training, and infrastructure, New Orleans, Louisiana. New Orleans is celebrated for its rich history and cultural vibrancy, from Mardi Gras to jazz music. Known as the birthplace of jazz and home to unique Creole cuisine and architecture, New Orleans has always been a cultural beacon. The city attracts millions of tourists annually, contributing billions to the local economy. Economic decline and poverty. Despite its cultural allure, New Orleans faces severe economic challenges. The median household income is about $39,000, significantly lower than the national median of $68,000. The rate stands at 23.8%, more than double the national average. Economic opportunities are limited, with a high unemployment rate of 11.4% compared to the national rate of 3.6%. Act of natural disasters. Natural disasters, especially Hurricane Katrina in 2005, have left an indelible mark on New Orleans. It caused over $125 billion in damage, displacing hundreds of thousands of residents. Many neighborhoods remain blighted and unrecovered nearly 2 decades later. Flood threats, ongoing due to the city's low elevation and deteriorating levee systems, continue to pose significant risks. Crime and safety issues. The city consistently ranks among the highest in the nation for violent crime, with a rate of 1,162 incidents per 100,000 residents, over 3 times the national average. Persistent crime issues hinder efforts to revitalize and attract new residents or businesses. Education and infrastructure challenges. The city's public schools are underfunded, with a graduation rate of only 72%, below the national average of 85%. Aging and failing infrastructure, including roads and public transit systems, stymie economic growth and quality of life improvements. Gary, Indiana, once a thriving industrial hub, has fallen into a state of profound decline that may be irreversible. This Rust Belt city, which was once a symbol of American manufacturing prowess, has been ravaged by deindustrialization, economic stagnation, and social upheaval, transforming it into a cautionary tale of urban decay. The rise and fall of the steel industry. Gary's fortunes were inextricably linked to the steel industry, which served as the backbone of its economy for much of the 20th century. At its peak in the 1960s, the city's steel mills employed over 30,000 workers, accounting for a significant portion of the local workforce. However, the decline of the American steel industry in the 1970s and 1980s dealt a devastating blow to Gary, leading to the closure of numerous mills and the loss of tens of thousands of jobs. Demographic decline and urban blight. The loss of these well-paying manufacturing jobs triggered a massive exodus from Gary, with the city's population plummeting from a high of over 178,000 in 1960 to just 67,972 in 2022. A staggering 62% decline. This population loss has been accompanied by widespread urban blight, with abandoned homes, crumbling infrastructure, and a growing concentration of poverty and crime. Economic stagnation and lack of diversification, Gary's economy has struggled to recover from the loss of its industrial base, with the city's median household income of $36,153 in 2022, being less than half the statewide average of $66,785. The city has failed to diversify its economy, remaining heavily reliant on a shrinking manufacturing sector and struggling to attract new businesses and investment. Social challenges and public safety concerns. The combination of economic decline, population loss, and urban blight has led to a host of social challenges in Gary, including high rates of poverty, crime, and social dysfunction. The city's violent crime rate is among the highest in the nation, with a homicide rate that is more than 5 times the national average. Lack of revitalization, efforts, and uncertain future. Gary, Indiana, has faced an unrelenting series of challenges that have led to its profound decline. The loss of the steel industry, demographic shifts, economic stagnation, and social upheaval have all contributed to the city's downfall, transforming it from a thriving industrial hub to a symbol of urban decay. East St. Louis, Illinois. In the early 20th century, East St. Louis was home to major industries, such as steel manufacturing, meatpacking, and railroads. It served as a crucial transportation and logistics hub due to its location on the Mississippi River. Deindustrialization post, World War II, many industries moved out of East St. Louis or shut down entirely. The city's steel mills and manufacturing plants, once its economic backbone, became relics of the past. Population exodus. The population has plummeted from over 82,000 in 1950 to approximately 26,000 today, a decline of nearly 70%. Economic hardship. The median household income in East St. Louis is around $20,000, compared to the national median of over $68,000. The poverty rate stands at a staggering 40%, more than triple the national average. Crime and safety. East St. Louis has one of the highest crime rates in the United States, with violent crime rates nearly 10 times the national average. Residents face daily threats to their safety, further driving away potential new inhabitants and investors. Education crisis. The public school system is severely underfunded, with a graduation rate of just over 60%, well below the national average of 85%. Environmental issues. Decades of industrial pollution have left a legacy of environmental degradation. The city struggles with contaminated land and water, impacting residents' health and quality of life. Urban blight. An estimated 30% of the city's buildings are vacant or abandoned, creating an environment of decay and neglect. Entire neighborhoods are dotted with derelict houses and overgrown lots. Infrastructure crisis. The city's infrastructure is in dire need of repair. Roads, bridges, and public utilities are failing, and the city lacks the financial resources to address these critical issues. Government corruption and mismanagement. Adding to the city's woes is a long history of government corruption and mismanagement. Corruption. Scandals. East St. Louis has been plagued by numerous corruption scandals involving city officials. Embezzlement, bribery, and fraud have drained the city's resources and eroded public trust. Fiscal mismanagement. Chronic mismanagement of city finances has led to budget deficits and insolvency, limiting the city's ability to provide essential services and maintain infrastructure. Community initiatives. Grassroots organizations are working to improve education, reduce crime, and address environmental issues. Programs focusing on youth empowerment and community development are making small but significant impacts. Urban renewal projects. Some redevelopment projects, such as the East St. Louis Riverfront Project, aims to attract tourists and new businesses. However, these efforts often face significant obstacles and limited funding. Cleveland, Ohio, a city once thriving with industry and progress. But what happened? Why did this city, once the fifth largest in the United States, decline so drastically? The rise and fall of Cleveland. Cleveland's population grew rapidly from its founding in 1796, reaching 796,841 by 1920. However, by 1980, it had lost its position as one of the top 10 largest cities in the U.S. By 2020, the population had further fallen to 372,624. The impact of deindustrialization. Deindustrialization played a significant role in Cleveland's decline. The city's once thriving manufacturing sector, which included steel, automotive, and rubber production, began to dwindle in the 1960s and 1970s. This led to widespread job losses and a significant decline in the city's economic base. The effects of suburbanization and urban sprawl. Suburbanization and urban sprawl also contributed to Cleveland's decline. As people moved to the suburbs for better living conditions and more affordable housing, the city's population and economic base continued to shrink. The current state of Cleveland. Today, Cleveland is working to revitalize its downtown areas and neighborhoods. Initiatives such as the Cleveland Eco Village and the Neighborhood Transformation Initiative aim to improve living conditions and promote economic growth. St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis, once a thriving city, has faced significant challenges in recent decades that have led to its decline. The city's population has steadily decreased, with a 63% drop from its peak in 1950. This population loss has been accompanied by economic stagnation, high crime rates, and urban decay, making it one of the most dangerous cities in the United States. Deindustrialization and economic decline. St. Louis was heavily dependent on manufacturing industries, particularly the automobile industry, which provided jobs for many residents. However, the decline of these industries in the late 20th century led to significant job losses and economic hardship for the city. Between 1960 and 2000, the city lost over 500,000 manufacturing jobs, contributing to a rise in poverty and unemployment. Racial segregation and urban decay. St. Louis is one of the most racially segregated cities in the United States. This segregation has led to the concentration of poverty and crime in certain neighborhoods, particularly in the north side of the city. The combination of poverty, crime, and lack of investment has resulted in widespread urban decay, with many abandoned buildings and dilapidated infrastructure, high crime rates, and public safety concerns. St. Louis has consistently ranked among the most dangerous cities in the United States. In 2020, the city had a homicide rate of 87.63 per 100,000 residents, more than 5 times the national average. This high crime rate has deterred businesses and residents from investing in the city, further exacerbating its decline. Lack of investment and revitalization efforts. St. Louis, Missouri has faced significant challenges that have led to its decline as a city. Deindustrialization, racial segregation, high crime rates, and lack of investment have all contributed to the city's population loss and economic stagnation. Reversing this trend will require a comprehensive approach that addresses the root causes of the city's problems and attracts new investment and development. Flint, Michigan, once a thriving industrial powerhouse, has fallen into a state of profound decay that may be irreversible. This former vehicle city, known for its role in the birth of the United Auto Workers Union and as the birthplace of General Motors' Buick division, has been ravaged by deindustrialization, economic stagnation, and a devastating water crisis, transforming it into a cautionary tale of urban decline. The rise and fall of the automotive industry. Flint's fortunes were inextricably linked to the automotive industry, which served as the backbone of its economy for much of the 20th century. At its peak in 1978, GM employed 80,000 workers in Flint, accounting for a significant portion of the local workforce. However, the decline of the American auto industry in the 1980s dealt a devastating blow to Flint, leading to the closure of numerous plants and the loss of tens of thousands of jobs, population decline, and urban blight. The loss of these well-paying manufacturing jobs triggered a massive exodus from Flint, with the city's population plummeting from a high of 196,940 in 1960 to just 81,252 in 2020, a staggering 58% decline. This population loss has been accompanied by widespread urban blight, with abandoned homes, crumbling infrastructure, and a growing concentration of poverty and crime. Economic stagnation and lack of diversification. Flint's economy has struggled to recover from the loss of its industrial base, with the city's median household income of $33,036 in 2020, being less than half the statewide average of $57,144. The city has failed to diversify its economy, remaining heavily reliant on a shrinking manufacturing sector and struggling to attract new businesses and investment. The Flint water crisis and public health concerns. In 2014, Flint's water supply was switched from the Detroit Water and Sewerage Department to the Flint River, a move intended to save money. However, the water was not properly treated, causing lead from aging pipes to leach into the drinking water. This led to a public health emergency, with elevated lead levels found in children's blood and an outbreak of Legionnaire's disease. The crisis has eroded public trust in local authorities and highlighted the city's ongoing struggles with infrastructure and public health challenges, crime, and public safety concerns. Flint has consistently ranked among the most dangerous cities in the United States, with a violent crime rate that is more than 5 times the national average. The combination of poverty, unemployment, and urban decay has contributed to a climate of fear and insecurity, further deterring investment and economic development in the city. Detroit, Michigan. Detroit was once the heart of America's industrial might, earning it the nickname Motor City. Home to the Big Three: Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler. Detroit dominated the global automotive industry in the early to mid-20th century. At its peak in the 1950s, Detroit had a population of 1.85 million, making it the 4th largest city in the U.S., with a robust middle class and a booming economy. Economic decline and deindustrialization. The 1970s and 1980s saw a massive decline in manufacturing jobs as factories closed or moved overseas. Between 1950 and 2010, Detroit lost over 60% of its manufacturing jobs. The population plummeted from 1.85 million in 1950 to under 670,000 today, a staggering drop of over 60%. The median household income is approximately $31,000 compared to the national median of $68,000, and the poverty rate is around 30%, more than double the national average. Social challenges and crime rates. High crime rates. Detroit consistently ranks among the most dangerous cities in the U.S., with a violent crime rate of 1,965 incidents per 100,000 residents, nearly 5 times the national average. Public safety concerns. High crime rates deter investment and contribute to population decline, exacerbating the city's struggles. Urban decay and infrastructure problems. An estimated 30% of Detroit's properties are vacant or abandoned, creating large areas of blight and desolation. In some neighborhoods, entire blocks are empty. Detroit's aging infrastructure, including roads, water systems, and public transit, is in dire need of repair. The city faces billions in unfunded infrastructure needs. Education and government issues. The public school system is underfunded and plagued by poor performance, with a graduation rate of only 78% compared to the national average of 85%. In 2013, Detroit became the largest U.S. city to file for bankruptcy, struggling with $18 billion in debt. This has severely limited the city's ability to provide services and improve infrastructure. Attempts at revitalization. Urban renewal. Projects Downtown Detroit has seen significant investment in recent years, with projects like the revitalization of the Detroit riverfront and the development of new business districts. Community initiatives. Local organizations are working to improve education, reduce crime, and foster community engagement, although progress is slow and uneven. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope you found this video informative and engaging. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this one.